Going, guys? It's Skos with Chicago Blackhawks Central, and today I'm just going to cover some former Hawks. Alex DeBrincat being traded, Ian Mitchell extending with the Bruins, and Philip Kurshev's extension with the Hawks. Yeah, so Alex DeBrincat, uh, I guess we could go back to when the Hawks traded him to the Senators, right? On draft day, 2022, and you know at the time we thought that the return for him was pretty small, because there were some deals earlier on that we thought we could match, right? Um, because we obviously traded Brandon Hagel for two first round picks, two players, right? And that's a big haul, right? For a player that's playing on the bottom six, right? In Brandon Hagel, but Alex DeBrincat being a top line goal scorer, right? Especially with the Hawks, with Kaner on the wing, he was that elite goal scorer. You just have to feed him the puck, but getting that type of deal, right? Um, Getting it from Ottawa, the number 7 overall pick, which turned into Kevin Korchinski, right? He is a special player. I mean, you could look back now and say, oh, we picked the defenseman top 10, right? But that pick is proving to be a very solid pick. I mean, Korchinski could be an elite top line left-handed defenseman for the Hawks. That's just great value to get for DeBrincat, especially when he only had that 1 year left on his contract, and we were still able to pry away that value. Right, we got the 39th overall pick also in 2022, which turned into Paul Ludwinski, right, from the Frontenacs. He's a center, right? Good depth player. He has a really high motor, good speed, uh, does pretty well on faceoffs. I mean, those are two prospects that you're really happy with, especially just getting rid of DeBrincat with only 1 year left on that deal. And Ottawa also threw in a 2024 third round pick. I mean, just getting the value in this deal compared to what Detroit gave up, which I'll go over here soon. But the value that we got just for that 1 year, you can't be mad at it. Um, People were mad back then, right? Because we could have got more, but looking at the contract situation, and he wasn't looking to extend with Ottawa, right? When he got there, so we basically just robbed the Senators of great value, right? Uh, Number 7 overall pick, number 39, and a third round pick in next year's draft, 2024. The value is awesome, right? And then we could go to just recently, uh, a day ago, 2 days ago. So Ottawa trades the cat to the Detroit Red Wings, and that's obviously like his hometown. The cat grew up in Michigan. I'm pretty sure it wasn't too far from Detroit. I'm not sure how far he grew up, but that was his hometown team, right? And the Wings just gave up. I mean, just throw in players like Kubalik. We know what you could get out of Kubalik. He's not a facilitator. He's just a solid 15 to 20 goal scorer, middle six winger, right? He really came on with us that first year, kind of dipped off that second year, right, in goal scoring, but he's a solid. He could probably fill in as a bottom six role right now. with the Senators, depending on their depth chart, but it's nothing too crazy with Dominic Kubalik, right? There's not too much upside there. Um, uh, Giving up from the Red Wings, and they also gave up a defensive prospect, Sabrango. So I'm not sure how high in the system he's rated, but that could also just be a depth defensive prospect, which I mean, at least they're getting a younger player to have in their system in the Senators. So they are adding some value with that, but it's nothing compared to what the Hawks got in last year's draft, right? Just the value is way off compared to what GMKD got and Steve Eiserman, right? And Ottawa also received a 2024 conditional first round pick. So I'm not sure on the conditions of that pick, but there's always a chance of it not um, becoming that first round pick, and maybe it does stay as a second round pick if those are the conditions. So the value already is not great um, compared to what the Hawks got, right? And in 2024, they also received a fourth round pick. So that's just a later round pick that they threw in, right? So two picks, one prospect, and one roster player. I'm just not very impressed, right? But DeBrinket was never gonna sign his extension in Ottawa, and he made that very clear, like early on. Even after the Hawks traded him, there were rumblings of just like he's just gonna play that year out, and then he's gonna test free agency, right? And then obviously he gets traded and he finds himself home in Detroit. So just a weird deal for DeBrinket. We always joke about like players going back for their hometown teams, right? But it actually worked out for DeBrinket and the Detroit Red Wings. So it's weird, but that's where he wanted to go, and they got him there. So it's a decent deal, but it's a little weird overall. And Ian Mitchell, we included him in Alec Regula in the Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno trade, right? So then I believe they're not. I don't believe they're extending Alec Regula, um, right-handed defenseman, but they are extending Ian Mitchell on a one-year contract, I believe. 775,000 for 1 year. I'm not sure if it's a one-way deal or a two-way because they do have some depth at that right-handed defensive spot, and I believe that they signed more right-handed defensemen. Just trying to shore up maybe one spot that they had open, or if they're just battling it out for that last spot. But Ian Mitchell, it's good to see him just get a fresh start, right? Because his development didn't go very well with the Hawks, especially with the old GM, right? Uh, he was super rushed. I think he played that first year right when they brought him in. They just threw him in. He wasn't ready, and he just bounced from the Rockford Ice Hogs to the Hawks all the time. And whether he was a healthy scratch or even if he was in the lineup, they wouldn't give him a great role, and just mainly just didn't fit in with this current timeline, right? Because we have a lot of great defensive prospects, and he just found his way out of that depth because there's so much depth there. Even though he is a right-handed defenseman, right? But just a smaller guy, not crazy speed, doesn't have a crazy offensive game, right? And his defensive game obviously isn't great enough where you could play him on your top four lines or top four on defense. And he just got drowned out by the prospects, and his development was obviously hindered from the old regime, right? And the old coaching staff. But it's good to see that we have this great coaching staff now for our new defensive prospects, right? So that's good for Ian Mitchell. Hope he does well there, and that would be cool to see with the Boston Bruins. And Phil Kershaw, the Hawks are definitely gonna bring him back in arbitration, right? So they took him to this time period, but I don't see his deal being super big either because even in negotiations, they have the right with his statistics, right? He doesn't jump off the page with his numbers, but when you watch every game, you could see his offensive game. You could see his chemistry with the top six here, right? Whether it's with Reichel and Radish or even Domi last year, he could play with those talented players, and I think that's good to have someone like that that could play in your middle six, even on your fourth line. But like he's a pretty speedy player, and he's decent on the defensive end. He could really play with the grinders or the highly skilled players. He's a decent distributor, and he could put the puck in the net. So that's good to see that they're working on that deal, trying to get it done soon. And I'm not sure on the term. I don't think it's only going to be a 1 year deal because they would probably like to have some depth with these forwards, right? So that would be great to have Philip Kurashev back on a short term extension, right? And he's not old at all. He's what, like 22, 23, 24. So he's still young. There's still upside there. Whether he plays in the middle six or maybe he bumps down to the fourth line later down the road, but that's good to have that skilled player down there. Yeah, so that wraps up this episode today. Catch us again at Chicago Blackhawks Central, and we'll see you next time.